All right, buonasera. What's poppin'? It's your boy Big Rich and Ndrangheta Weekly News. You know how we do. NWN, one of the few platforms on YouTube to report on news and the history of the Ndrangheta. You know what I mean? Let's get right into business. Wipe your feet on the rug and throw some smoke in the atmosphere. It's time for Ndrangheta Weekly News with your boy Big Rich. Let's get busy. American Ndrangheta, Toronto Siderno Mafia. By Ed Scarpo of CostaNostraNews.com. Salute. That the Ndrangheta Siderno group, composed of clans based in Calabria, Italy, is present in Canada is an established fact. In 1971, while arresting Francesco Caccamo for possessing a loaded 24 caliber handgun and 6 phony $10 bills, police searched his home in Toronto and found tucked away in the kitchen cabinet a 27-page document written in an archaic Italian script that was titled Come formare una società, or How to Form a Society. It was a guide on the formation of the Ndrangheta cell. It also included some of the group's rules and ceremonies. Francisco and his wife Rosa were arrested. The court rules that the documents, henceforth given the nickname the Caccamo Papers, were genuine. Also, they were similar to only 3 others ever found in the entire world. Francesco was a member of a clan that was part of the Siderno group, an umbrella group of the Ndrangheta families originating in Siderno, Calabria. The Siderno group refers to a Ndrangheta group primarily based in Canada, including the U.S. and Australia. Members migrated to Toronto first in the 1950s from Siderno, which is on Calabria's Ionian coast. The group also includes the Ndrangheta clans on the other side based in Siderno. The years the papers were discovered is significant. It had been reported that the Siderno group was formed in the early 1970s when members of the Ndrangheta, most notably the new boss of the Comiso clan in Siderno, Calabria, sensed the potential in drugs. And just so you know, this symbol is the Siderno coat of arms. In a way, the Siderno group was formed in the 1970s following the First Ndrangheta War, which was probably fought over the drug business. The early incarceration of the group, which arrived in the 1950s, apparently had nothing to do with drugs, but was rather focused on other traditional mafia rackets. The Ndrangheta had a sort of civil war between the younger generations, who craved the swift path to money and power that drugs afforded, and older traditional members who resisted the drug trade. According to an official document written by anti-mafia prosecutors in Italy in 2011, once in charge, the new boss took over the direction of the illegal activities of the gang, made up of powerful relatives and friends of the Siderno group of crime, including one by his cousin, the Rocco Remo Comiso, who initiated a continuous flow of cocaine trafficking to Toronto using supply channels from Argentina. As such, the families present in Canada began their climb to the top of the criminal world, turning themselves very slowly into the point group for those in Calabria interested in selling drugs. Cosimo de Quayle Comiso, born in Siderno February 6, 1950, was given the reins by his father, Francisco Comiso, born in 1913, who had enjoyed prestige as the chief lieutenant to the historical Ndrangheta boss of Siderno, Antonio Macrì. Francisco had been wounded in the attack on Macrì and for some reason did not want the job, perhaps owing to his injuries. Antonio Macrì, born in Siderno 1902, passed away January 20, 1975, called Ntoni, was a charismatic boss of the Ndrangheta and the capobastone, head of command of the ndrine in his hometown. Macrì was one of the most powerful bosses belonging to the old guard. In Siderno, he was well known as the true authority in his town. Macrì held the position of capo crimine from the beginning of the 1960s until the outbreak of the First Ndrangheta War in 1975. Together with Domenico Mico Tripodo, the boss of the city of Reggio, Calabria, and Girolamo Mommo Piromalli, head of the most powerful ndrina on the Tyrrhenian coast, he formed a triumvirate recognized by all their family chiefs who were loyal to the trio. He also had close relations with the Sicilian Mafia. In particular with Michael Navarra, the capo mafia of Corleone, and an actual physician. In 1950, Navarra was banished by the Italian authorities to Gioiosa Marina in Calabria. According to Italian research, Macrì also had connections to the United States, New Jersey, as well as with Frank Costello and Albert Anastasia. Macrì opposed drug trafficking. Still, several clans from Plati, San Luca, and Gioia Toro Plain engaged in the drug businesses. Apparently, other clans grew increasingly interested in the business as well, which required them to break with the group's historic boss. Macrì, as powerful as he was, could not prevent or punish what he considered violations of the traditional code, which must have exclude trafficking in drugs. Apparently, according to the group's bylaws, both the crimine and its charismatic leader depended on the consensus and cooperation of the individual Ndrangheta families and relied on the goodwill of single-family bosses to toe the line. Macrì was also not an innovator with good business sense. Rather than expand into new rackets of a more entrepreneurial nature, he focused on the traditional mafia loan sharking and extortion schemes. Still, Macrì made early moves that allowed for the formation of the Siderno group in Toronto. He'd been a major player when it came to international expansion. He had his eyes, in particular, on Canada and Australia. He, in fact, initiated Mike Rocco into a local ndrina and sent him to Canada in the early 1950s to set up organizations there. This led to the formation of the Siderno group. The formation of the Santa, a secret society within the Ndrangheta's established in the early 1970s to maximize the power and invisibility of the most important bosses, apparently led to what had been called the so-called First Ndrangheta War, in which some 300 lost their lives. It began with the murder of Macrì, who for some reason opposed the formation of the Santa. On January 20th, 1975, Macrì was executed in Siderno, most likely due to his opposition to drugs and not the Santa. The interpretation of this war by the Italian authorities noted above, it was a generational war fought over drugs. At the same time, after the war, the Ndrangheta went full steam ahead with drug trafficking. It is ironic that Macrì was the first one to see an opportunity in Toronto, as he had established the basis for the Siderno group, which is basically now what's left of the world's premier drug traffickers. And in a further ironic twist, in the end, Macrì was murdered and then replaced by the young dynamic Cosimo Comiso, who for a while became the boss of Siderno and Calabria, who himself remade the Siderno group for drug trafficking purposes. Let's get into a little bit of terminology. The ndrina, plural ndrine, is the basic unit of the Ndrangheta of Calabria, made up of blood relatives, and is the equivalent of the Sicilian Mafia's family or cosca. Each ndrina is autonomous on its territory, and no formal authority stands above the ndrina boss. The ndrina is usually in control of a small town or a neighborhood in larger cities, even outside Calabria, in cities and towns in the industrial north of Italy and around Turin and Milan. If more than one ndrina operates in the same town, they form a locale, the main local organizational unit of the Ndrangheta with jurisdiction over an entire town or an area in a large urban center. The ranks. On the bottom are the picciotti di onore, or soldiers. At the bottom are the picciotti di onore, or soldiers. The next level is known as Santista, and higher still is the Vangelista, upon which the up-and-coming gangster has to swear their dedication to a life of crime on the Bible. The Quintino is the second highest level of command in the Ndrangheta clan. It consists of 5 privileged members of the family who report directly to the boss, the capobastone. Far from being the boss of bosses, the capo crimine has comparatively little authority. The historical preeminence of San Luca family is such that every new group or locale must obtain its authorization to operate, and every group belonging to the Ndrangheta still has to deposit a small percentage of illicit proceeds to the Principale of San Luca in recognition of the latter's primordial supremacy. Security concerns prompted the creation of the Ndrangheta of a secret society within the secret society, La Santa. Membership in the La Santa is only known to other members. Since the end of the Second Ndrangheta War in 1991, the Ndrangheta is ruled by a collegial body or commission known as La Provincia. Its primary function is the settlement of inter-family disputes. The body, also referred to as the commission in reference to its Sicilian counterpart, is composed of 3 lower bodies as known as mandamenti. There is one each for clans on the Lonic side of Calabria, on the Tyrrhenian side, and one central mandamento for the city of Reggio, Calabria. So, great article, packed with a lot of information. Great article. Salute to Ed Scarpa from Costa Nostra News. Salute to my boy Shatter that finds this stuff. And this is how we present it to you, right? Passing on the information. Each one, teach one. That's how I say. Salute. Let me know what you're smoking on. Leave the comments in the room. Like, comment, share. And Ndrangheta Weekly News, NWN, Team Ruckus, Ruckus Radio Podcast. Salute and have a good evening. We'll talk tomorrow morning.